Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we are. I'm Bobby Puckett with Kurt the Flash Bennett, episode 3 of the Trading Sliders Podcast. What's going on, Flash?
Not much, man. Just trying to recover from a long weekend.
Yep, very, very long weekend.
Yeah. Actually started Thursday night for us.
Yeah, it was man, we had a long weekend. But before we get started in anything, today's episode is brought to you by D.O. Handyman and Remodeling, 812-989-5002. David with D.O.'s Handyman Remodeling will take care of all your handyman needs. He builds fences. He does any type of small remodeling. I mean, anything that needs to be done. He reached out to us and
Free estimates.
Yeah, free estimates, fully insured, all the good stuff. So, please take look him up on Facebook, or just call him. But we really appreciate, him helping out with the show. And we've had a bunch of people reach out, about the show and, all positive. Well, most positive. Had a couple negatives, but, hell, we're trying. We're new to it. So, but guys, thank you so much, for all the support that we've had so far. We never in a million years thought it would grow this quick, this fast.
Right.
But, that's why we do it. So hopefully it'll keep growing. And on this week's show, we got a really, really special guest. You guys stick around. We went and interviewed Michael Spanky Despain. Flash and I met up with him last week, and right before he was about to call his final race.
Yeah, he just called the final one this weekend.
Yeah, at the Butterball, Spanky, 32 years of announcing. And we get into a real deep dive. It's our questionnaire interview type deal. It's called our deep dives, and it's a really it's a really good interview. I believe Spanky and I we sit there and we bullshitted for like 30 something minutes about racing and so
I think we could have talked longer if we could have got on the show.
Yeah, I mean we may have to interview Spanky again. We didn't get to everything we wanted to.
Well, actually, Bobby did all the interviewing this time because we got another set of mics coming, so we'll have enough to.
Yeah. Kurt was the executive producer,
yeah.
and I was interviewing down there at the race shop. So,
right.
The same mess we have on the table, we had in somebody else's place. So,
yeah, here before long though, we'll be able to interrogate people really good.
Yeah, we'll really be able to jump on it. Like I said, it was a long weekend. We made our trip to Brownstown Friday night for the C.J. Rayburn Memorial Race, and then Saturday we went different directions. Flash went down to Richmond Raceway, and he covered the Butterball. And I went up to Lawrenceburg Speedway for the Fall Classic, or the Fall Nationals. I'm sorry. So we have quite a bit to get into, and like I said, we don't want to take up all of your time because we have a great interview with Spanky. Friday night at Brownstown Speedway, C.J. Rayburn Memorial Race. Racetrack was in phenomenal shape.
Oh yeah, it was actually really good for Brownstown. I mean, I was impressed
for Brownstown, especially because it hasn't rained since the Flow race,
and all late models, so everything was big tires there.
Yeah, they had 38 super late models in the house, and I think 24 or 26 crates.
Yeah.
So it was a really good show. One thing I want to say about this though, Bobby Pierce, he jumped out early. And Pierce was kind of running the middle, kind of like the old Brownstown line where he was just clicking off laps. And RTJ started rolling the bottom, and he stayed really patient with it. And I know it was hard to do because Marlar ripped around the outside of both of them.
Yeah.
And, Mike Marlar was hauling balls on the top side of the racetrack. So RTJ, he stayed really, really patient and just kept rolling his line. And when they caught lap traffic, Pierce, they were racing 2 and 3 wide in front of him, and I know Pierce was upset after the race, but everybody's going to be upset when you lose $10,000 win race. But the thing was, like on my end, RTJ was catching him anyway, so it's probably going to happen regardless.
Yeah, I think that one was going to be over anyway with RTJ the way he was running on the bottom there.
Yeah,
I mean, that traffic that's part of racing too. Yeah, I mean, you have to. Sometimes you make the right move, sometimes you don't. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah, especially at Brownstown, like I said. And Marlar, he dropped off on the front stretch. I thought he was going. He even said this in his interview. I thought Marlar was going over on his lid.
Yeah. I thought it was Don O'Neill for a while because that's the way he used to run.
Don O'Neill did that on purpose.
Yeah, I know. Well, you didn't have quite the curb you have now either. There was a little less of a curb at Brownstown than what there is now.
Yeah, now there's a damn ramp.
Yeah.
Coming off turn 4.
Yeah.
Where we were sitting, it was a major lip, but
yeah,
it was a really good race. like I said, RTJ got by him, and when RTJ got by him, the track didn't really lock down, but like the last 7 laps, it was there was so much traction on the bottom. That's why everybody was running because they threw the crumbs across the track. But hats off to Ricky Thornton Jr. because you lead the points all year, and then you go to Pittsburgh and you have 2. Not bad races. You ran the top 10 both nights, and then all of a sudden you're third in points because of the way that Lucas does the chase thing. And I'm on record saying I'm not a big fan of that. I mean, the guy earned, all year he earned the lead. So I'm glad all is right in the late model world with Ricky Thornton Jr. being back in the point lead.
Yeah. Hopefully this year at Eldora they'll have a little better race service to race on. I mean, I liked it when it was like it was last year for the Dirt Track World Championship. It was had a lot of character to it actually. Because they didn't have very many cars finished. But I'd like to see them be able to really race up there. But if Davenport brings out the Eldora car though, it might not be. Might not fare well for him if he doesn't have any problems.
Well. If you guys listen 2 shows back, I told you guys how to fix the Davenport car. All you do is squeeze him in the fence just a little bit, make him work on it. No, all jokes aside.
Brownstown the other night, the hot lap session got pretty exciting with the Davenport and
Shackelford.
Yeah,
Shackelford and Davenport. I've never seen I've
never seen him lose his cool like that.
You can tell the points is weighing on Davenport because he lost his cool ready to fight somebody in hot laps. But he's trying to throw down the old shack pack from the speedrome, doing donuts in the infield, all kinds of craziness. But overall, I thought Friday night's race was it was a really good race. Racetrack was perfect. Damn near all night for everybody that was kind of upset, complaining about Fun Fest. That's why they canceled it, because the place was packed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you couldn't get another person in Brownstown Speedway.
Well, that was on Friday night. We didn't even go on Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We watched Saturday because we were at different places. We watched Saturday, watched the broadcast back before we did the show here. But, it was packed Friday. And then Saturday night, the Jackson 100, Mike Marlar, Bobby Pierce jumped out to the lead. Looks like it led 30, 40 laps or so. Yeah. And then Marlar was doing what he was doing the night before on the top side. And Marlar, ripped around the top, took the lead. Then RTJ got by Pierce, and the last 20 laps or so, it looked like the track locked down.
Yeah.
And everybody
Marlar even said it. He said, I knew once it locked down in the bottom, or he said, when I got to the bottom, it was one lane. He said, I knew it was in pretty good shape. They was going to have to work pretty hard to get around.
Yeah, well, RTJ got a run up on him once.
Yeah.
But it couldn't pull it off. But overall, successful weekend.
He could have.
Well, he could have. But RTJ's not that type. He's
right,
not.
Yeah.
I mean, he will throw a slider on you. He'll throw a mean slider on you, but he's not going to run you off the track.
Right.
Well, most of the time he's not going to. But
except for those 2 fans on the backstretch.
That was
he's
funny.
Talking about.
RTJ said 2 fans on the backstretch flicked him off all night. So he wanted to give a big shout out to them. That was probably the highlight of the night, Friday night. Really, the interview. But after they got the Dirt Track World Championship this weekend, Lucas Oil points. RTJ's leading over JD. And JD and Moran are both 50 points behind. They're tied for second. I think T-Mac's like 160 points out. So T-Mac's just hanging on. Looks like he's going to be in fourth. But it's Ricky Thornton Jr.'s title to lose.
Now, when they do that, do they just the points going into Eldora, the Dirt Track Championship, is that have their starting spot? Is that how that works? Or
no, you just run your show. Yeah, that's
the points don't matter once they get there, do they? Really? I mean, as far as the top 4, all in.
No, the points do matter now. That's why they did a 6-race deal.
Oh, okay.
Last year it was, winner take all.
Oh, okay.
Now you get points per event. So it's supposed to be 8 races, but they went down to 6.
Oh, okay.
So, RTJ's got a 50-point lead. So I think by Lucas' points, I think it's like a 5. He's got a 5 position advantage over both of them.
Oh, okay.
So roughly, don't quote me on that, but I think it's something like that. So, we'll see. Next weekend, Dirt Track World Championship. Weather's supposed to be phenomenal again next week.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's going to be a big car count.
It's supposed to be cool all week, so track might be really good up there too, maybe. I mean...
Yeah, it's supposed to be really cool over this week. So, and the Dirt Track World Championship, it's supposed to be cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be cold. It's supposed to have campfires all night. And, so they're running the, at Eldora next weekend. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Dirt Track World Championship, they're also running the Steel Block Late Model Series and, the UMP Opal Modified. So, looking for a big car count, big fan turnout. Don't quote me on this, but I think this might be the last Dirt Track World Championship at Eldora.
Yeah.
I think they're going to, well, if Pennsboro goes okay,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of ifs.
I know they did some testing there the other day, and I think it was Moran wasn't real impressed. I don't think.
Yeah, he's.
I don't know if you've seen his interview.
Yeah, no, I seen the interview. He was kind of like,
yeah,
it's not as bad as I thought. You know, it's kind of like asking your wife, you know, how was I in bed? Well, she didn't say I was good, but not as bad as I thought. So that's as she's giving me the mean mug. So I don't know. Hopefully, Pennsboro works out.
Yeah.
And then Kurt Saturday night, Flash, he went fishing Saturday, and we're not going to tell you how he did in the fishing tournament this week because it's not nothing to talk about.
Yeah, I bombed.
Yeah, he threw a hell of a slider and caught the lip, put her in the fence. So he didn't tear the equipment up. He didn't tear the boat up. He just didn't win.
That's the good thing about fishing. You don't really tear the boat up too much when you go.
See, if you go,
usually.
See, if I go, there's a good chance that son of a bitch could be on the bank.
Yeah.
But afterwards, you know, Kurt he made the trip down to Richmond Raceway for the 37th annual Butterball Memorial. They had 37 super late models, which was shocking on my end.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, maybe 20, 25. But it was a co-sanctioned Ultimate Hunter of America and Valvoline Ironman Series. And like I said, it was Spanky's last hurrah, you know.
Yeah.
So Kurt went down and supported that event. And Flash, tell us about the race.
Actually, it was a really good race. I mean, first got there, track looked like it was going to be really rough, but it smoothed out really good. And them guys was ripping around the top and the bottom, which there you're either going to run on the top or the bottom.
Yeah, there is no middle.
It's not wide enough to run anywhere else. So, but yeah, it was good. First heat race, though, I thought they almost turned one over on the first lap. Cameron, he ran in there and caught the inside. And I was sitting in turn 3, so it looked really bad to me because I could see the hole underneath the car, you know, when he went up.
It probably felt bad to him too.
Oh yeah, and he saved it. And then, but him and the C4 Freddie,
Carpenter,
he was rolling too, and he. I don't know if he jumped the cushion, got the wall, or what happened, but he wrecked in the heat race there and had to go and take it on the wrecker and but he come back out and got the front end all fixed back on that thing and come back out and feature. And I think he started 17th and ended up finishing 5th, so he made a heck of a run.
Yes, he was the hard charger of the race, up 12 spots.
That's on a track that's hard to pass. I mean, you know, it's
another thing too. Flash and I was talking because he hasn't been to Richmond in a long time, and
right.
So I was there earlier this year for the Cumberland Plateau Oval Modified Series, and I told him, I said, the guys there, they're doing a pretty good job. It's not the Richmond of the old. I know it gets a bad rap, because it gets dusty, and
I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, stuff they used to use on the tracks a long time ago. They can't use anymore, so it's not the same dirt we used to have.
Well, no, and like I said, the guys at Richmond, like I said, I think they're doing a pretty good job. Is it, you know, Fairbury? No, it's not, and it's not going to be that. It's never going to be that.
It really wasn't dusty though. It was more just dirty. You know, it wasn't like dust where you couldn't see. It was just, you know, the actual dirt just flying off, not hunks of dirt, just dirt. You know?
Yeah, well, that's the way it was when we were there earlier in the year. It got real crummy. Like with
that's a better word for it there. Yeah. It was just crummy, you know.
So like with the modifieds, they couldn't blow it off.
Yeah.
So once the feature started rolling and everybody started going in the same lane,
right,
it kind of, you know, single-filed a little bit. But, you know, if they would have ran the late model feature first, it didn't blew it off, you know. So,
right.
You know, a lot of what ifs. But, you know, honestly, like I said, I think Richmond Raceway is doing a pretty good job. It's a lot better than it was 10, 15 years ago. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So Corey Hedgecock took the win there over Ricky Weiss and Cameron Marler. But like Flash said, Fast Freddie Carpenter, the fastest ponytail in the land, put on a show, and you know, and Flash ran into him at the gas station.
Yeah, I had to let him know he drove a heck of a race. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Fast Freddie told Flash, hell, at least somebody noticed. So it even tells you, you know, guys that win on a consistently basis, you know, even they get down a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Man, class of the field though was Corey Hedgecock. He did not bobble in the feature one time.
Well, one thing I like about Corey Hedgecock is, you know, he builds his own race cars. You know, the BMS, and builds his own race. Well, his dad builds the engines. You know, the Eagle race engines, and you know, he's an East Tennessee hot shoe, and I might get people, you know, tell me I'm crazy saying this. He reminds me a lot of Scott Bloomquist. Yeah. Like if the track's slick, he's gonna be the man to reckon with. You know, he doesn't really talk a whole lot, so he doesn't. You know, he's not Scott Bloomquist outside of the car.
Right.
You know, Hedgecock, he's just kind of, you know, to himself, and he's not going to throw you no crotch chop or nothing. But when you get on a racetrack, though, I mean, the kid, I think he's 26, 27 years old, and building dirt late model chassis, and
Right.
and his chassis perform everywhere. The few that's out there are are really
good,
really good. So
yeah, I think what's his name, Groomer.
Oh yeah.
I think Groomer's got a new one.
Yeah, I think Groomer's got a new one,
and he ran good the first time out with his. I mean, first time in a late model with a super motor anyway.
Yeah, so shout out to Corey Hedgecock. Just come down here to Kentucky and took the $7,500 home.
That was his first trip to Richmond too.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it was either last year or the year before was his first trip to Ponderosa, and he won the $10,000 to win race. I think it was the Big Daddy Classic or something. His first trip there. He's a kid that's on the up in the the super late model world. He's been. And the guys in East Tennessee's glad he's starting to run more supers because there for a while when
the crate race.
It was a crate race. Corey Hedgecock was the winner. It was just right to check out. There was no denying that.
Yeah.
So overall, trip A plus was a good trip.
Oh yeah, it was good. It was great. I didn't get to stay for the whole thing because I'd been up already 18 hours or whatever. So they was running the super stocks after I left, and they had a wreck. It was going to take a little while to clean up when I did, so I decided to go ahead and bail. Yeah. But it was really good though. The late model feature was awesome. Oh, well, they run the whole show good through all night. They didn't play around. I mean, they did a really nice job. Yeah,
well, like I said, shout out, hats off, a hat shake to Richmond Raceway. And then Saturday night, my wife and I, we went up to Lawrenceburg Speedway for the USAC Fall Nationals. They had 35 sprint cars there, and it was flashy. You would have loved this place that night. It was like Lawrenceburg of the old. It was slick with a hole. It was a hole going in one, a hole going into three, slick, and it had about a 2-foot tall cushion.
Yeah,
it was a really really good racetrack, and the sprint car feature. It took 3 starts because CJ Leary had a nasty wreck down the backstretch. They jumped wheels, and he started flipping coming off turn 2 and was stopped at the exit. Nasty, knocked the fuel tank off, knocked the axles out of it. I mean, it was a bad wreck. And then, Friday night's winner, Briggs Daner, on the second restart, he jumped the cushion going in 1 and put it up in the fence in 1 and 2. And after that, though, when the 30 lap A main, when they went green, it was green to checker after the first 2 red flags. And Logan Seavey, he started 6th, and Logan Seavey, it was a slaughter fest throughout the whole race. Seavey took the win with Mitchell Mose running second, and Dazen Persley. He was quick time award, and we talked about Dazen a few weeks ago. He's going full time wing racing next year, so we're gonna miss seeing him, especially at places like Lawrenceburg, because the kid is a flat out gasser.
Yeah.
But from 2nd to 12th, if you blink, there's a lot of 2-for-1s going on. There's a lot of Kmart specials going in the turn. Yeah. It was sliders left and right. It was a really good show. I said hats off to Lawrenceburg. I know Friday night they caught a lot of flack. I know Robert Ballou wasn't real happy with the racetrack Friday night. It was pretty much right around the bottom. It had a cushion, but it had a cushion in lane 1.5.
Yeah.
But I think they put so much water on it, and because of Saturday.
Yeah.
And you couldn't complain at all about Saturday's racing though. Even the modified race, the UP 1 modified race was good. They had a couple cautions to start the race, but Ben Harmon, a local kid here, Ben Harmon started 8th and almost beat Matt Hamilton.
Yeah.
With 2 to go, Harmon ended up 2nd.
If anybody knows anything about that place, Matt Hamilton pretty much owns that place.
Yeah,
in the modified anyway.
Yeah, since Joey Kramer retired. Since Joey Kramer retired, but Kramer's not retired. He's back in the modified, and he was doing Joey Kramer things. Man, he was ripping the lip, and Kramer was hauling balls, and he spun out. He tried a slider, and instead of running over the guy, he got on the brakes and spun out.
Yeah.
So he went back to the tail. They had 16 cars, and I think Kramer got back up to 5th, and the old boy on the outside of him hit the wall and hooked him on the right rear.
Hooked him. Yeah, that almost looked.
Yeah, that was almost bad.
Yeah.
That was almost really bad. But Rocket Man back in a modified, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him. There was so much going on, and everything was running around so quick. So, but I was gonna ask Rocket Man what his plans were for next year. But hell, who knows? Maybe he'll be one of our interviews coming up soon, and we can ask him that way. So we can do a deep dive of Rocket Man.
Yeah.
Talk about taking the old Lightning chassis down to Speed Weeks in Florida and winning the championship when he was 20 years old. Maybe we can do something like that. But like I said, we went to Lawrenceburg. Fun time. It was beautiful. I mean, you couldn't. The weather was phenomenal. I've been to Lawrenceburg probably, I don't know, 50 times slash. This is the first time my wife and I went down to the historic Lawrenceburg and walked the riverfront.
Yeah.
Before the races, because I told her, I said, hell, this is. I didn't even know this was down here. I mean, I've been through town. You know, they got the football field and everything right there in town, but I've never really paid attention. And it seems like every time I'm going to Lawrenceburg, I don't know why, but it's like I'm getting there as the races start.
Yeah.
So we got to spend the day in Lawrenceburg, beautiful southern Indiana. You know, if anybody knows me, I'm an advocate for all the small towns in Indiana. But
yeah,
you know, we had a really good time. So, you know, sucks that sprint car racing is over in the state of Indiana. Well, almost over. Circle City's got a steel block race this weekend, but sprint car racing for the most part is over in Indiana for the year. We'll just have to look forward to it next year. I got out to Bloomington, Puntmanville. I didn't get to Kokomo this year to see the sprint cars, but yeah, it was always next year. And speaking of Kokomo, the Kokomo class, did you see this Friday night, Flash? They had 40 non-wing sprint cars at Kokomo, Indiana for the Kokomo class, just for the Dave Darling Classic.
Yeah.
I think I paid $4,000 to win. Ryland Gray out of Greencastle, Indiana, he won, started 7th. Jake Swanson was ripping the top. And, well, he thought he was ripping the top.
Yeah.
And Ryland Gray went around him on the top side. So Ryland Gray picked up the win. And he was one of the few guys that traveled down to Lawrenceburg Saturday. And he qualified 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
But he's a young kid, young hot shoe that, you know, he's really, really progressed this year. He's starting to branch out a little bit. I think he's running some midget races. You know, he's one of those, like we talking about a few weeks ago, is USAC in trouble? Well, kids like him coming up, USAC's going to be just fine.
They're going to be okay.
And then Saturday night, they had for the Kokomo class, they had 183 cars Saturday night there. Yeah. I think they had 25 super late models. It was XR race, you know, with Brownstown and everything going on. They kind of knew that, you know, the car count was going to be down just a little bit, but it was not a bad race at all. And Opie, Mike Spatola, started 5th. You know, modified hot shoe, turned late model racer a couple years ago out of Illinois.
Yeah.
Opie, he made a rare trip over to Central Indiana.
You don't see him.
You hardly ever see Opie out of
Illinois much. I mean,
I think I've seen him at Lucas Oil Speedway for a couple of MLRA shows, but Opie came over to Central Indiana, and it was a tough field too. Brian Ruleman was in the field, so I mean, if you beat Brian Ruleman, you know you're doing something. But yeah, Opie, Mike Spatola picked up the win, and they had 60 modifieds signed in. They capped off with 60. Yeah. And Dylan Woodley picked up the UMP modified feature win. I think it's his 9th feature win of the year, or 10th in that lethal chassis. Dylan Woodley, I think he picked up his 9th or 10th feature win this year. So hat shake to him. I know he's had a rough year. He tore up a couple cars bad at Eldora earlier this year. So
you wreck at Eldora, and you pretty much tore it bad.
Yeah. Hell, I've seen golf carts tore up at Eldora out in the field. So, hell, I've even seen push trucks tore up at Eldora.
Oh, yeah.
We was there for a sprint car race, and a push truck had a flat, ran over top of the sprint car, and hit the wall. So, said at Eldora, you know, where the Dirt Track World Championship is this weekend, if you screw up in any vehicle you're driving, there's a chance you're going to be tore up. And one of the final races we want to talk about this weekend was the Knicks Grand Finale at the Sportsdrome, Fun Fest 2.0.
Yeah.
I talked to some people over there, and they had a pretty decent crowd. I don't think they had the car count that Mike Gibson was wanting in the Outlaws. I think they only ended up with 14. But after last week's Dirt Outlaw Figure 8 race, there's had some attrition.
Everybody just got done with the 3-hour, and then that, and it's you know.
But I tell you who was there, and everybody that was at the racetrack knows who was there. The Tunnies.
Yeah.
Top 3 podium. Jesse Tunney, Mark Tunney, Ben Tunney. But the Tunnies swept the podium there in the Outlaw Figure 8s. Jesse, he's branched out. He's done some great late model racing for the Breed Love race team. So, you know, it was... Everybody's going to say, well, the damn Tunnies win. It used to be all the Harmons always win. Yeah. The Tunnies always win. I mean, you know, once you get Figure 8 racing... Once you hit on it, it's hard to get off of it. So, but you know, congratulations to Jesse Tunney. And in the modified Figure 8, you're gonna like this, Flash. Dale Shelton picked up the win in the modified Figure 8.
Huh? That's good.
Yeah,
Dale the night we went over for the old timers thing, Legends thing, racing reunion. He won the night I was there, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so Dale Shelton dusted some.
One of the older guys still getting it done.
Yeah, one of the old guys still getting it done. And Jacob Robertson ran second. J. Rob, a young kid that's come up through the Ford Figure 8 ranks, he ended up running second. And another young kid, Robbie Greenwell, ran third. Robbie Greenwell, he's the son of Darren Greenwell, so you know he's just now starting. I think he's running the Outlaw Figure 8 a little bit too this year. So That's what went on at the sports room this week at FunFest 2.0. We're about to get into our deep dive segment with Spanky Despain, but we're going to talk about some upcoming races this weekend first. This weekend, obviously, we can't go without talking about the Dirt Track World Championship. It's the big one in the super late model world. We're gonna crown a Lucas Oil late model champion. We're gonna have probably 70 or 80 modifieds and close to 70 steel block late models up there. So there'll be a ton of race cars. Yeah. A ton of partying in the campground.
And them steel blocks don't.
Them
guys put on a show. I'm telling you, everywhere I've seen them run, they're competitive. I mean, there's like a lot of cars right there together. So.
A lot of those guys, they're not gonna, they're in their niche. They're they're in their affordability. They're gonna run steel block late models.
Yeah.
They get one time a year to go to Eldora, and you don't get many chances, because it's not like Eldora is like, okay, we're going to run crate late models this week. Yeah. I think there's been one time. So the steel block late model guys, when they get there, it's video game style racing.
Every one of those guys is going to try to show out.
Yeah, they're at the Big E, and they're there to take home the trophy. Weather's way better than what it was last year. We was up there last year.
Yeah.
Hell, actually, I was up there for a couple of days, came home, picked you back up,
and
then went back up there because the weather was so bad. So hopefully they have a good weekend. And here locally, one of the most historic races in our area. I know it's a pavement race, but we cover everything here. The Halloween 200 is this weekend at Salem Speedway. It's not what it used to be, but it's still the Halloween 200. Yeah. You still got to make 200 laps around the high banks. And they also have a Crown Vic 100 lapper, or maybe it's 200 a lap.
No, I think it's 200 also. Yeah.
So
is that on Friday though? Ain't it?
Yeah. Yes.
I think they're running that Friday night.
So Friday night they got. I think last year they had like 78. That's closer to what the Halloween 200 used to be.
Yeah.
But they're going to run a bunch of stuff on the short track. I think they got Legends, Bandoleros. They got a whole slew. It's FunFest 3.0.
Yeah.
If it has wheels on it, it's racing this weekend at Salem Speedway for the Halloween 200. So if you guys are in the local area and you're not going to make it to the Dirt Track World Championship, next best thing, head to the Halloween 200.
Yeah.
And also this weekend, Saturday, Circle City Raceway, they have the Spooky 150. And Flash, they're running 9 divisions. They got steel block sprint cars, TQ midgets, micro sprints, crate late models, modified, super stocks, pure stocks. So Spooky 150, it's a big party. They got DJ, camping. So that's going to be, the final race at Circle City this weekend. And here's one I'm really looking forward to. And if I could talk my wife into maybe making a little bit of a racing trip, on these next two, we might try to squeeze one of them in. But IRP, USAC Silver Crown, is at IRP, and they've also run in the pavement midgets and the 500 sprint car tour. So it's kind of like when we were growing up, the old Thursday Night Thunder.
Yeah.
You get all 3 open wheel cars, and there's no sprint cars racing in Indiana this weekend. So I'm sure there's going to be some dirt guys that's trying to find a midget ride or a non-wing sprint car ride at IRP. So you got USAC at Raceway Park. There's nothing better than watching midgets at Raceway Park. Even if you are the biggest dirt late model fan or whatever, watching a midget fly around Indianapolis Raceway Park is unbelievable.
Oh, on Thursday nights, we always made sure we had everything done on the car so we could be in to watch that.
That's it. Because we're so old. When we worked on race cars, we didn't have no TV in the damn garage.
Yeah, we didn't have TV in the garage or cable.
These kids nowadays, they're pulling it. Well, I say these kids. Hell, I do the same thing. I got Dirt Vision pulled up while I'm working on shit.
Yeah, well, like I said, you pull up on your phone and
Bluetooth. Put it on the screen.
Put it on the screen and there, so.
So these kids, they've got it made because we had to get our shit done and then work on it.
We had to walk in the house to watch TV.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and then this is a big one right here. The ASCS and the USCS have the World Short Track Challenge at West Memphis, Arkansas, the Ditch. $10,000 to win, 360 sprint car race. And the preview this week, they had 39 360 cars this week for their regular show, for their flip-flop race. Darren Hager won Friday night. I know we've already done results, but it just popped in my head. Darren Hager won Friday night, the first race from the pole, and they call it the flip-flop. So, they invert from where you finish to run the second 25-lapper. Darren Hager won from the tail.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just going to say there's a good chance Darren Hager is going to be in contention for the $10,000 win at the Ditch this weekend.
He's been doing some testing for it, sounds like.
Yeah. Hager's one of those Arkansas racers, like the old, crawdaddy Tim Crawley.
Right.
He shows up. He might feed you a wheel. He's coming. I
Yeah.
mean, so he's like Ricky Stenhouse,
Yeah.
And he don't mind doing, mind throwing punches like Stenhouse either. He's like Sammy Swindell, all those guys that grew up at the ditch.
They race a little different at the ditch. Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The ditch.
There's no crybabies there. The sign, I think the sign is when you first go in, something like that. I remember I took a picture of it when I was there the last time.
Yeah, it says in the pits, no crybabies allowed. If you're gonna bitch, turn around.
Yeah.
That's my kind of place there. So, if you're in the Memphis area, anywhere in Tennessee, check out the World Short Track Challenge this weekend at Riverside at West Memphis, Arkansas. There, one of my favorite racetracks I've ever been to.
Yeah.
It's rough, it's tumble, but I mean major cushions, big slide jobs, and hell, it might get dry slick. As the guy told us one night before the heat races, and the damn push truck got stuck in the mud on the front stretch. So,
their dry slick's a little different than ours too.
Yeah, everything's a little different in West Memphis. So,
they got that good black gumbo clay though too, man.
It's
yeah, I like that. I like those like that.
Yeah, there's no complaint on from us on West Memphis, Arkansas there. But coming up next, we're gonna have our deep dive session. It's time for the Trading Sliders Deep Dives presented by Kentucky Clutch and Performance. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Michael Spanky Despain. How you doing, Spanky?
Hey, man, I'm great. Thank you guys for having me on here this evening.
Yeah, we're gonna jump into a few things. I know a lot of people listen to this podcast. We jump around a lot, so we won't go word for word or step by step. What you've done over the years. This weekend coming up, we're recording this. This is your final weekend calling races. Sad for a guy like me who grew up, watching you, and I know it's going to be sad for a lot of people in the state. Is it surreal that it's coming to an end, or is it something you kind of want come to an end?
Well, I've told everybody that I just think it's time. I've been doing this 32 years since 1993, and I've been very, very blessed and very fortunate. I've got to talk about a lot of wonderful race car drivers and describe what they've done to the race fans. And I don't know that I would say there's anything surreal about it or anything like that. I'm sure maybe on Sunday or Monday I might look back and say, man, that's the last time that I'm going to call one full time. And it's a deal that I'm not saying that I'm not ever going to do it anymore. If somebody needed somebody to fill in some weekend or something like that, I would. I've even told Chris, because I announced for the Valvoline American Late Model Ironman Series fueled by VP Race Fuels, and I've told him, I said, if you ever get in a pinch and you need somebody to come to bat for you, holler at me. If it's where I can, I'd be glad to come do it.
Well, yeah, and as professional as you are and as good as you've been doing this for years, it's not like you're going to forget how to do it. I mean, you're obviously always going to be, the man with the mic, in Kentucky. I remember, years ago you worked at Bardstown and then Glasgow, and then you went on to Brownstown. I don't know exactly how the step was, but it seems like, one thing I take away from when we started racing was you treated the lower division guys as the same as, the super late models. And, that meant a lot to me because I was a lower division guy. And I don't know if you remember this, but this was probably 01, 02. We were at Barron County Speedway, and it was a Battle of the Bluegrass night, and they ran the late models and the mods, and it was about 1 in the morning. And, I won the race there in the sportsman division. And we got out of the car, and there was like maybe 20 people left in the stands. And you treated me just like you did, the guys that night. And that always stuck with me. And, I'm announcing now, so, when I have opportunities, I always try to pay that back. And I just want to say, from a race fan, thank you.
Well, I was just always, it was always my belief that you got to treat all the racers the same. Everybody pays the same amount of money to get in, and it doesn't matter whether they're late model racing or if they're four-cylinder racing or something in between, what have you. Everybody's passionate about what what they're doing, the division they're racing in, and they deserve to be treated with respect.
Yeah, and another thing too, you're kind of labeled as a late model guy. when the pandemic happened. You were the first person. This guy from Campbellsville, Kentucky, is the first person live on national TV.
Myself and the race director that I work for, Chris Tilley, we done the flow broadcast from Tri-County Racetrack down in Brasstown, North Carolina. Yes, we were blessed to get the opportunity to do that. That was pretty cool. I will say this much. It's probably one of the most serene, weird feelings that I've ever had at a racetrack. You were there doing a show, and there were no fans in the stands. That was pretty wild.
But, it was really, really neat because America, because that's was just when internet broadcasting started and this whole, streaming and everything started. And, America got to see what we got to see all the time. And they even got to see Tilly drop the flag out of the stands that night.
That was at Bulls Gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I got to tell this in his defense. He didn't actually drop it out of the flag stand. It come out of the holder that night. So.
Yeah, I see. That's another reason why we like Spanky. He's always going to bat for his people. He's not going to throw you under the bus. But you've seen the sport change so many ways. And doing this for 32 years. What do you think the sport of late model racing is right now? Do you think it's because I'm under the belief that, because I built race cars, I've raced cars, I'm under the belief that it's not as good as everybody thinks it is. The competition's great, but the money aspect of it, the ball's rolling and it's hard to slow it down.
You kind of took it where I was going to say, competition wise, it's probably as competitive as maybe it has ever been. You can go to any racetrack anywhere that's got a special event super late model show or even a regular weekly show anymore. And there's that regular weekly show, there may be 8-10 guys there that can win. You go to a special event, if there's 50 cars there, 20 to 25 of those guys are capable of winning the race. But man, the expense, what a lot of people may not realize, and I'm not going to say the racer that told me this, but in conversation that with a racer that is racing on a national series right now, this was from 2022. At that time, when he rolled his race car on the racetrack that evening, he said, "You're looking at $130,000." Yeah. Now, and I realize, these guys now, the purses that they're racing for, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, the purse structure, there's big money races. Bobby Pierce has won 34 events this year, and I think I counted the other day, 8 or 9 of them have paid $50,000 or more. But the expense of getting up and down the road and going to all those events, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere as far as the cost of dirt late model racing goes.
Yeah, that's what I was. I had the same conversation a couple of weeks ago with a couple of friends of mine. And they were like, "Well, they're racing for so much money," and I said, if you just went as a fan and traveled what they do, you're going to spend $2,000 a week just as a fan. I said, that's not even
more. You'll spend more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, that's just as a fan, just getting in the track, driving. I said, so we, I don't know. I don't know exactly where we, where it's going to go. I don't think anybody actually does. I know, with streaming, everybody always got an issue with streaming. You've been an old school guy. You come from, where hell, we didn't even have streaming. We didn't even have Dirt on Dirt. Didn't even cover the races until.
Hey, back when I started, everybody was still relying on Kentucky Racing News, Mid American Racing News, Southern Racing News, whatever. I think at one time, my wife. And I'm married to a saint, let me tell you. She's let me do this, run up and down the road. She knew what she was getting into when we got married, bless her heart. But there was one time that around the first Friday and Saturday of the month, I would get, I think it was 9 racing magazines that I was subscribing to at that time. Of course, now, you talk to the younger generation, you say something about a racing magazine, our paper rag, as we used to call it, and man, they'll look at you like you got 3 heads because they don't know what you're talking about. But no, and I think I know where you're fixing to go here. Is the streaming deal? Is it beneficial to the sport? And again, it's kind of like that happy medium I talked about with the cost of dirt late model racing. I think for the streaming services, have they brought great exposure to the sport of dirt racing in general? Absolutely. Kyle Larson, and I just use him for an example with some of the stuff that he's done, the crossover from NASCAR, doing the sprint car racing, doing the dirt late model deal. That has brought a lot of new eyes to the sport of just dirt racing in general. But is it a deal that are the racetracks being compensated for? Are they being compensated enough for maybe the ticket sales that they may lose because, a husband and wife and their children, instead of coming to the event, they've got that Flow subscription, or they've got a Dirt Vision subscription, or a Pit Road TV subscription, or Racing America, because there's so many of them out there now, that they can sit home and watch it. Are the promoters being compensated for it properly? And, you even got to look at it, with NASCAR, and there's a lot of controversy right now over the charter stuff and how much money that the teams are going to be guaranteed off the TV contracts. Should the race teams should they be getting a cut of the pie? If a particular streaming service is broadcasting a particular series or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. I mean, there's great things about it, but I think there's also some things that are negative that need to be addressed and tried to be worked on.
Well, see, I agree with you 100% on this, and I'm announcing races now. I'm calling races, and the first thing that my friends and family say, oh, well, are you going to be on Flow? That's the first thing.
Right.
And, I'm like, hell no, I'm not going to be on Flow. We got some great streaming partners. I said, but no, I'm, not yet. I said, but, get out and get to the racetrack. Get out and support a racetrack. If a race was within 4-hour drive of me, and, as a fan, I'm not staying home and watching it on TV. So I guess it just depends on, how you are. Because I've been to 327 racetracks across the country. If they're racing and I can afford to go and we can make it happen, I'm going.
See, you've got me beat on that. I've been announcing 32 years. Well, I've been around this stuff. I'm 54 years old. I've been around it since I was 3 years old because my grandfather had raced, my dad raced, and I tried to go-kart stuff, and we found out real quick that everybody was safer if I had a microphone in my hand instead of a steering wheel. Not that I'm great with a microphone or anything, never have been, never will be, but I've been fortunate enough. I've been to 131 different racetracks in 15 states, and have gotten to announce at 79 of those. So, so I'm a long ways from that 327 mark, man.
Yeah, but you've been announcing at 79. I think I've announced at 15 now. So, but I've told you this before, and I'm not just telling you this because you're on the podcast. I said, for kids that grew up in the state of Kentucky, Michael Despain, Spanky. We won't even call you Michael. We'll call you Spanky because that's what you're Spanky. If you was a 90s kid, when I say 90s kid, 90s, 80s, 90s, when you went to the races, if Spanky was in the house, it was a big show because you worked you worked all the special events and like we said, there was no streaming back then, and you was talking about the newspapers. Next time you're up in the Louisville area, you need to stop by. I've got stuff from back in the 70s. I kind of collect racing newspapers.
I'm right there with you, brother. There's about 12 or 14 totes that's in my garage. My wife, she loves this so much. I've got about 12 or 14 totes that are sitting in my garage that is nothing but racing. Yeah. I guess since I was 7 or 8 years old, I've got every racing paper that I've ever got. I've got all the Mid-American Racing News from June of 1982 till they quit publishing in 2005 or 2006, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's something, like when I go down to the Ice Bowl, the Talladega Short Track,
right?
I go over to the museum, and my wife's like, "Oh my God, I hope the library's not open," because if the library's open, I'll sit over there for hours just reading stuff.
Yes.
And I tell kids now because I announced for the Cumberland Plateau Series, the Open Wheel Modified Series, and there's a bunch of young kids on there, and I'll tell them all the time, like, do you know so and so, and they just look at me and like dumbfounded, and I'm like, I mean, you have a computer in your hands. You have a cell phone in your hands, and there's everything on YouTube. How the hell do you not know who they are?
Oh, gosh.
So, I get it. But, one thing I was going to say was, you work for many series. You and Tilly have a really nice working relationship. since you are hanging it up, are you just going to promote concerts now? Is that what you're doing?
No, it's and to let everybody know, Chris Tilley, he is a race director and owner of the Valvoline American Late Model Ironman Series, and it kind of got to be a deal. This started last year in 2023 because we had an open wheel series, and then with all the late model stuff we were doing, we had 29 rainouts last year. And he calls me one day and he says, Spank, he said, I'm thinking about starting promoting some music events here at the Center for Rural Development in Somerset. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, those are indoors. He said, they can't get rained out. You know,
he's got a good point there.
So that's kind of where it started. We had the Blackwood Brothers Gospel Quartet in October last year. And then done Bellamy Brothers up in the spring. I think it was in February or March of this year. And just recently had Little Texas, and I'm going to get some dibs in here since we're talking about it. Doug Stone's going to be there October 26th. Okay. Blackwood Brothers will be back on November 7th, and Confederate Railroad will be there on November 16th. And if you need tickets, centertech.com. Check it out, and you can get yourself some tickets for those deals.
See, that's why Spanky's the best in the business. Okay?
No,
he knows how to plug right in the middle of an interview. No, but all jokes aside, my little brother, a lot of people don't know this, but he was a professional wrestler for years before he had to get got married and had to get a real job. But he traveled all over the country, and Colt Cabana, he does the Art of Wrestling podcast, and that's kind of where I kind of modeled this after him, and my little brother always said, the good thing about these you can hurt your enemies and help your friends. So Spanky just took a page out of the playbook there. But no, all jokes aside, though, to me, like I said, it was an honor. I hate that you're calling it quits. I really do. But the way late model, first off, let me ask you this, because a lot of people say you're a late model guy, which that's what I've always assumed. But are you a late model guy? I mean, do you enjoy all types of racing?
I enjoy all types of racing. Okay. I really do. It really doesn't matter what it is. I can sit and watch it, in person, on television, what have you. I just enjoy racing in general. As long as it's and now I will say this much, I'm kind of biased to the dirt. And because that's what I grew up around. Now I'm not sitting here saying that I'm just anti-pavement, because there's some places across this country that are pavement racetracks that put on phenomenal racing programs every week. But I guess I could say I am kind of lean toward the dirt, but I don't care what it is. If it's going in a dirt circle, I enjoy watching it.
Well, that's kind of the way we are. Me and Kurt Bennett, my co-host here, I grew up in the pavement world because we had one of the nicest short tracks in the country, at Livermore Speedway.
Yes.
I mean, you just it was 5 minutes from the house.
Right.
So when and that's actually where I started racing. And when they shut down, I mean, I always went to Brownstown, I always went to Jackson 100 and everything. But my dad, he raced all over the country when I was a kid, so it didn't matter, pavement, dirt. I mean, my dad
lots of times done it with the same car.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what I was about to say. I mean, my dad took a modified figure 8 car, so to speak, back then, and went and made the Winchester 400 and took it to Eldora to try to make the World 100. So
right.
I'm not partial, but I'm a dirt guy. My little brother still races pavement, and I'll go to a pavement race, but it's kind of like we're a mirror image. Like, I am a dirt guy. That's earlier this year, I stopped by the Sportsdrome, and it was funny. When I walked in, a couple of guys I knew when I was growing up, they said, "Where'd you get rained out at?" And I said, "Well, Brownstown." So they knew if I was there, something else happened.
Right.
But I was just saying, because a lot of people, they associate me with open wheel modifieds. I raced open wheel modifieds. I announced for the open wheel modified series. I'm a big advocate. I tell everybody, if you can make one race in the country, one time, go to the Super Nationals in Boone, Iowa.
At Boone, yes.
Yeah. So I'm, but like deep down, I like late models, but I love non-wing sprint car racing. I'm a late model guy because I grew up in the state of Kentucky, and I followed the Battle of the Bluegrass because that was and we're going to segue into regional racing because that's what you guys do. And but a lot of people always tell me, "You're a modified guy." I'm like, well, I mean, not exactly. I'm I mean, I love all racing, but like if I had to pick, I'm gonna go non-wing sprint car racing first.
Okay,
So,
got you.
But regional racing, we talked about this on a couple of our podcasts, because James Essex is bringing back Northern All-Star late models, and
Yes.
the Ironman series, they've went with the American Late Model Series combined, and
Yes.
so regional racing is really important. It's really important for all, for our racing to prosper. But the cost of regional racing is really crazy, because they're trying to compete on, a different level. But, we need regional racing because we need guys that run, modifieds. They need a place to go. They run 602 or 604, or if you're in Tennessee, 15 different type of late models. So,
I've said this for years. A regional super late model series, we are kind of like the single A, double A, and triple A to Major League Baseball. We are the feeder system to, the national series. Jonathan Davenport, for example, he cut his teeth running Ray Cook Southern Nationals. Brandon Overton, that's when Overton kind of burst on the scene back there around 16, 17, 18. He done it running spring and Southern Nationals, with Ray Cook.
And guys like Bobby Pierce,
exactly.
The summer national stuff. I mean, I know where you're going with this. I'm gonna let you finish. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I feel the same way. Like we need it. And I think some things need to be done to make sure that still exists. Because there's a lot of racetracks, especially in the Midwest, and in Kentucky is like, well, a lot of fans. Well, I'm not going if they're just running crates. Well, those crate guys need a place to progress.
Exactly.
So you need to show up and support that track so they can move to the next step.
Exactly.
So, I didn't mean to cut you off.
But without regional, and it doesn't matter whether it's dirt late models, there's regional sprint car series, what have you. There has to be some type of feeder system in place to get these young men and women today, to get these drivers prepared to make that. If they do aspire to get to race at the national level, there's got to be that regional deal for them to kind of cut their teeth at and get their feet wet as far as traveling, knowing what you got to do to be out on the road, race 3 or 4 nights in a row, how to maintenance and prepare your race car, as far as taking care of your money, and that type, and that's part of it. Taking care of your money, budgeting. Are we going to have enough money here to be able to do this for 4 days and buy tires, fuel, what have you? There has to be a place for these young drivers to learn.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to touch on. You've seen many changes, like every type of change you could see, but. I've had a discussion with a few people because people are saying, well, the racetracks aren't what they used to be. The promoters don't work on the tracks as much. And I took a different stance in this. I think the technology on the race cars have changed so much that the track isn't the problem because you can only put so much water. You can only turn it over so much. But I think the race cars may have just a little bit too much grip, a little bit too hooked up. I don't think it's as much as
You can keep going right here. I agree wholeheartedly. The tire, and I'm not going to say so much about the tires maybe, but the shock and spring technology, especially with the late model, the super late model, crate late model, open with modified stuff, it is crazy. And yeah, these guys are, they are literally stuck to the racetrack anymore. You and I had a conversation. You went and watched a race down at Sonoa, Georgia, here just a few weeks ago, and I've been there and been fortunate enough to call some races down there. And that black gumbo, man, there's nothing in this world. That place gets as slick as a concrete floor with water poured on it, man. But these guys back years ago, they would slip and slide all over a place like that. With the technology of the cars now and with the downforce on them, the way they've got the body sealed off, they're right down to the ground. They don't, even when it's black, dry, slick or whatever, they don't slip and slide no more. They're wherever they point that race car, that's where it goes.
Well, that's why I'm a major fan of Tri-State Speedway in Hobstadt, because everybody looks at that place like, oh, this place is gripped up. No, it's a slimy. Like,
it'll get slick.
It's slick. It's slimy slick. And there's no dust, so everybody assumes that it's hammered down, but it's not. That's one of the few places in the country that I always tell people. They ask me, where can I go to, new fans? Where can I go to not see a bad race? And that's my first answer is Hobstadt. It's like, well, I'm not a sprint car fan. Okay, watch the modifieds. I said, Summer Nationals come once a year. It don't matter what.
Right.
It don't matter what runs around that place. Helfrich, he makes sure that the track has just enough grip to make it questionable, but not enough to make it racing.
Right.
So with all the changes, that you've seen throughout the years, what's been the biggest? I don't know how to word this. What's been the biggest change on the promoter side? Because a lot of people don't understand. Like, I know Tilly's your race director, but you kind of do it all. You're not just holding the mic. I mean, you're at the racetrack. You're walking around. You're checking every car in. You're helping with tech. I mean,
I don't handle no tech. No. They don't want me. They don't want me handling tech. Okay, I'll just tell you that right now.
Yeah, but you're doing a little bit of everything. What do you think? Because we can't always say, well, the drivers complain too much. The fans aren't being, there's also some improvements that racetracks need to do as well. I mean, we call it how we see it here on the Trading Sliders podcast. If the track's great, we'll tell you it's great. If it's not, we'll tell you it's not. Same with the race cars and series. What do you think the biggest change racetracks need to do to survive locally? Because that's a big subject right now, surviving locally.
One of the things I think that needs to be done is they need to have more fan interaction, I think, more fan engagement, have things. I know the Dwayne Harrison and his crew that promote Rock Castle Speedway down in Mount Vernon, Kentucky. I know I've seen this year 2 or 3 different times. They've had some stuff. They've had inflatables for the kids and stuff and things before the races. Bring some of the race cars up where the fans can get, that just come to watch. They don't buy that pit pass to go roaming around in the pits. It allows the fans to get up close to the race cars. And this one right here, I think, has gotten to be a real pet peeve of mine over the years is time management at the races. You got to get the race program done in a timely manner and not have people there all night. To me, and I guess I get this back from my days at Bluegrass Speedway working for David and Anita Furl. We had an 11 p.m. curfew over there, and there were lots of nights we'd run a 4-division program and 10:30. Yep. Feature race was over with. I'd get home. I had about an hour's drive home. I could get home in time to watch Saturday Night Live, man. And I kind of enjoyed that back at that time.
Well, this is a funny story. I've raced at Bluegrass Speedway and went and tagged to tell the feature at Brownstown the same night.
Okay.
so we got done quick enough. I made the 2-hour drive to Brownstown. Brownstown had some rain, had a weather issue.
Right.
But still, that's my wife. She travels all over the country with me. Like I said, we've been doing this for 22 years. And, I took her to the North-South 100 on our first date, and said, this is what I do every night of the week.
Right.
So, she was around racing, but she wasn't around racing, so to speak. So, because her dad raced a little bit, but that's one of her biggest deals. She don't care where we travel. She don't care where we go. Like if I tell her, hey, I'm going to go to Kokomo Saturday, we're going to leave Kokomo and drive to Benton, Iowa Sunday, she doesn't care. But here's one thing that does get her. If it's during the week or if it's on a Sunday night and we are not out of the racetrack by 10:30, 11 o'clock, she is heated.
See,
and it don't matter if we got an hour drive home or 6-hour drive home,
right?
Because she knows when we're going, like we're gonna have a 5 or 6 hour drive home some nights. But please have everybody out there had a decent hour. I mean, she will fist bump you and give you a hug next time she sees you because that's a big thing on her end. And
another thing. The sport itself, in a sense, is kind of at a crossroads, I think, right now. Promoters are at a spot where they're paying basically about all they can afford to pay. because of the attendance, that they have versus the guys racing. And you know this yourself, and we talked about it earlier, the cost of any form of racing, but it seems like dirt racing especially, every year it just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, and nobody's come up with the magic formula to find that happy medium on that yet, I guess.
Well, I don't know if there is a magic formula.
Right.
Because guys building the race cars, I mean, they're trying to make a living, and their cost goes up. Promoters, they're some promoters are doing everything they can to stay afloat.
Right.
I mean it's it's really tough. This weekend, I was up at Shady Hill Speedway. I called some stuff for the American Sprint Car Tour. Then this past weekend, and that was my only complaint, because last time I was at Shady Hill, it was a little rough. And I told the guy that's got this place, I said, hey, you guys have done a really good job, I said, but I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I got a 5-hour drive home, and, you got a major modified race. I mean, Cole Fallaway was there.
Right.
So I was like, all these guys have got, a big drive, and we got sprint car guys from Wisconsin. And you're taking intermission at 11:30 at night. I said, that's not I said, I don't care what the issue is. I said, but that's not good. He goes, well, I'll be honest with you. This is one of those places, when I first got at this track 8 years ago, the number one complaint was we got done too early. That everybody complained. And I said, of course, we were in the sticks.
Right.
I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, in my first couple of weeks, I was done by 10:30. And I had people complaining. He said, so, we try to stretch it out to midnight, and I'm thinking, midnight, that's going to put me home at 5:30. So,
right.
But, so I get it, but, And
a lot of it, you just hit on something right there, though. Depending on what part of the country you're in,
yeah,
it's a lot of what the race fans of that particular area are accustomed to and what they're used to. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, because, you go down south, and, the race fans down south, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, it seems like to me they don't care if you're there 6-7 hours. They're going to have 2 or 3 meals. Everybody's going to hang out.
Right.
But you get up to the Midwest, you get up to Fairbury, Highland, Spoon River. If you're there longer than 3 hours, they're ready to hang you. So it just depends. We're 30 minutes into this, so I could talk to you for hours. But I don't know if anybody want to hear 2 old guys talk about how good racing was and where
right.
it's going. So just from a race fan, I want to say thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you to, what you contributed to the sport. Thank you to, you're one of the few guys that, is associated with Kentucky on a positive manner because of racing. I mean, we have racers that travel all over the country, but, everybody knows Spanky. Dirt on Dirt did a write-up article on you, so I know that's got to be, make you proud. But, just coming from my end of it, and, there's a lot of kids that are in their, late 40s, like me, that, we know Spanky as an all-time great announcer, and please don't make this your last race this weekend.
Well, I will say this much. I'm not going to – it's going to be a deal that next year, if somebody called and said, hey, our regular track announcer can't be here. Can you come fill in this Friday night or this Saturday night? If I didn't already have something planned and going on, yeah, I'm going to do that. And I've even told Chris, that if he got in a tight spot and he needed somebody, for a weekend or something other, that I would do it. I'm not just going, and I can't just walk away from it altogether. Like I said, I'm 54 years old. I've been around it 51 years. When I started kindergarten, I didn't realize I thought everybody had a race car because that's all I'd ever been around. I kid people all the time. I said the first time I ever saw a Little League baseball game, I think I was 8 years old. I played in it, and that was after we'd sold the race car. So, it's one of them deals. But I appreciate the kind words. I really do. I just tell people all the time, I've been very, very fortunate and very blessed to get to do what I've done over the course of my lifetime and get to be around the people. Man, the racing family is it's so unique and so tight. Now, yeah, somebody might get mad at somebody, 1 week, but in most cases, 9 times out of 10, 2 weeks later, everything's forgotten about. And if somebody needs some help or needs to borrow a piece or part, everything's forgotten about.
Me and Kurt, my co-host, we were talking about that on the way up here. It's like, it's not like it once was, because I mean, years ago, guys would fight on Friday and help them fix it on Saturday.
Right.
Now with social media, it might take them a few weeks to get over it.
Right. Yes.
But I still have hope that racing's not going anywhere.
There's always going to be something.
There's always going to be something going in circles. But I still have hope that kids get out to the racetrack, because there's so much other stuff they could be doing now. And I'm just like you. I was born on a Thursday, and I was at the racetrack Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My first weekends, being alive. And hell, my dad went and raced we left Speed Weeks, and I missed my first week of school. My mom was ready to kill him because we ended up in New York when we left Speed Weeks to go get some parts. So, I'm one of those kids. I didn't know any difference. I thought every Friday you went to the racetrack, and every Saturday you went to the racetrack, and Sunday you spent cleaning up and fixing what you tore up.
Right.
I didn't know there was a regular life.
Exactly.
Until I started playing basketball, and so. But thanks again. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I appreciate you being my first real interview. Like I said, this is something we're trying new. We've been talking about it for 5 years, and we never really, got into it. And Kurt, I called him a couple weeks ago, and the BC 39 was on, and we've been to the races all weekend. I said, "Hey, you want to ride over and watch the BC 39?" He said, "Sure." And when he got there, I said, "We're going to do our podcast starting tonight." So we're like 3 weeks into this, and
that's cool.
And we're still trying to figure all this stuff out. And hell, I recorded something the other day and didn't even have the record button on. So first thing he said was, "Make sure the record button's on."
Oh gosh.
So, but all jokes aside, though, I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to do something next year. I'm going to. Maybe you might be free one weekend, and I can talk you to come to a race with me, and we can call a race together.
Hey, I'd love it. That'd be great, dude.
So I can work with one of my heroes, and when I screw up, you can poke me in the side.
No, you're not going to screw up, and I'm not going to poke you in the side. But I'll close with this, because I'm sure everybody's getting tired of hearing me ramble. But I made the comment about I've been fortunate enough I've told everybody I was just a fan that got to get on the other side of the fence, and been able to do what I've done for the last 32 years. And I've never thought that, and to this day, I'm just blessed to get to be part of the show. I am not the show. The show is them drivers that strap into that race car and risk their lives every time they go on that racetrack. And the show is also the fans that are sitting up there rooting for their favorites. And, thanks for having me on. Thanks for any kind comments from fans anytime over the years. You don't know how much I really appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
All right. And again, thank you, Spanky, for being on. Until next time, we will be trading sliders. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our interview, our deep dive session with Michael Spanky Despain. Fascinating figure, Spanky is. All those years traveling up and down the road, calling races. One of my childhood heroes. One of my first times I ever got interviewed on the racetrack was from Spanky.
Yeah.
So
he's done a few of those, I'm sure, over the years.
yeah. Me and Spanky. Actually, out of all the interviews I had, Spanky's probably interviewed me the most. Really, racing in Central Kentucky there. But thank you to Spanky, Michael Despain, for taking time out of his busy schedule. And like I said, he was preparing for his final race, and I knew Spanky was retiring, and I was like, man, I really got to get Spanky on the show. So, and I called him, or I messaged him, and then he called me back. And usually when you try to set up an interview, you got to jump through loops. And I said, Spanky, I'd really like to get you on the show because you're retiring. He goes, whatever we need, Bobby. Yeah. And I was like, damn, okay. So thank you to.
He's an awesome guy too.
Yeah,
man.
Spanky,
Just an awesome individual.
And what I really like about it is he's talking, he was talking about his totes of racing magazines and newspapers. Yeah. I was like, yeah, my wife's gonna kill me the same way. I've got stuff everywhere. So, big, from us to Spanky. Not only thank you for doing the deep dive session and being my guinea pig, because
Yeah.
we didn't really know how all that was going to turn out, recording on the road. But thank you for what you've done for, the sport of dirt late model racing, dirt track racing in Kentucky. I said you're the big ambassador for Kentucky dirt late model racing. James Essex is the guy that holds down the fort in Indiana, but Michael Spanky Despain is the guy that holds down the fort in Kentucky. So,
he's a lot of knowledge on races too. Over the years that he's got there, he could tell you about anything pretty much. I think.
If it happened, because I was asking him, I said, you probably don't remember this. It's like 01, 02. He's like, yeah, I remember that, and I was like, damn, really? Well, of course, it was 2 a.m. too, so he probably didn't remember interviewing me with nobody else around because he's probably wanting to get back to Campbellsville, and I'm talking like, hell yeah, I done got me a dub, so I'm gonna sit here and talk all night. But, big shout out, thank you. I hope he enjoys his retirement, and and I told him he's not gonna be fully retired. Come on, bring him in for a race next year. He's gonna come call a race with me one time. So I'm gonna hold him to that,
Yeah.
So, and then that's about it. We tried something a little different this week. We've done some deep dives.
Yeah.
I think they're really intriguing, and people don't want to hear us talk for an hour every week. So that way we can bring pull back the curtain a little bit, and give give different perspective of racers, fans, announcers.
Yeah, that's what we want to get a little bit of everybody in here, not just your normal big time racers all the time. We want to do. I mean, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make the racing world go round, and that's what we need to take care of those guys too. I mean,
and that's what this show's about. We're, like I said on our first episode, we're a couple old dudes just going to talk about racing, and that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our trips, and we're going to do some deep dives with some guys that that you may or may not know. I mean, there's some people up in northern Indiana that that message me about the podcast. They really love it. They probably don't know who Spanky is.
Yeah.
And then if they can look up some of the Valvoline or the old Battle of Bluegrass stuff,
might have somebody look it up. And
and they might, I know if you've
go
listened to him, he's a fan.
Yeah, well, you can go back and find a lot of stuff on YouTube now that you used to not be able to. I mean, as far as old races and everything like that, there's lots of places you can check out some of the older stuff too. And
so like I said, one last time, big thank you to Michael Spanky Despain, and we've got a couple more of we're not gonna let the cat out of the bag, but we got a couple more really good interviews coming up. We've already recorded a few, and it's just getting things rolling. But guys, thank you again for following along with the podcast. Please like, share,
tell somebody,
and like everybody tells me they love when I say this, but I'm being serious. Even if you don't like it, tell somebody you did, because they may. You don't have to listen again. We're okay with that. But tell somebody else, hey, I really like these guys. They're bullshitting about racing, and they cut up and have some good stories. Even if you think we suck,
Yeah, and we're always going to try to tell you, give you some race results, and then tell you where you can go the next week.
That's just what we do.
A lot of people just don't know where people's racing sometimes. So we try to put down anything that's anything that we think people might want to go see. We're going to try to mention it. Just try to get the word out.
Well, like I said, like the race results, if we didn't see it, or if we weren't there or we didn't see it, we're not going to talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
But with especially now, we can travel like we always have, but we have Flow and Dirt on Dirt and Dirt Vision, and so we can watch the races. It's not like we just show up and do the show. We can watch the races and comment on it. So if we didn't
give
see
you our
it,
idea, you might not agree with us on some of the stuff we say, but
you might say
that's the way it is.
These two old dudes are real old. They need glasses too, because that's not how it happened. But sorry about your luck. But like we always say every week, get out, support your local racetrack. The race season's coming close to an end. I think we got probably 2 weeks in the Louisville area where we can get stuff in. Then after that, you got to head south. And the way the weather is in the south right now, I don't know if you really want to head south, because hurricane after hurricane. Thoughts and prayers to Florida again, and hopefully
and still in North Carolina and Tennessee there too, man.
Thoughts and prayers, and hopefully all that's over with, and they can start rebuilding their lives and get back to racing. So, any final words, Flash?
No, I don't think so. Just like I said, just like and share and tell somebody about us, and we'll try to keep this thing going.
Tell somebody about us. We're gonna try to be out every Monday. So until the next time, we will be trading sliders.